The Television Academy proudly inducts Mary Tyler Moore into the Hall of Fame.
If I have achieved any degree of success in television, it is in great part because I've been fortunate enough to have been surrounded by the finest artists and craftspeople. As you can tell from the people you saw on this stage tonight and the others in the film clips, both in front of and behind the cameras, they are the best. My deepest thanks to Carl Reiner for a scholarship to the University of Comedy that was called the Dick Van Dyke Show, where, among other things, I learned at the master's foot how to get a laugh with a straight line. To Grant Tinker for introducing Jim to Alan and convincing them that they should become Brooks and Burns. To Jay Sandridge, who sets the clock for comedy timing. To my dear friend, Arthur Price, whose wisdom and guidance so lovingly given over the years has become my solid foundation for everything I do in this business. And finally, the audience, who recognized some kindred spirits in the characters that I have played and took them and me into their hearts. Along with my gratitude to the Television Academy, you also have my promise that I will continue to try to do whatever it is you thought I did to deserve this. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Reagan.
Good evening. I am happy to be a part of this third annual Television Academy Hall of Fame presentation. It's been my personal good fortune to have known many of the honorees over the years, men and women who, during their long and distinguished careers, have contributed greatly to the enrichment of our lives and our nation. Television is a marvel, an astonishing medium of information and entertainment. These TV pioneers have shown how their medium can divert us, move us, even ennoble us. They've set standards of excellence that no one would have believed possible when television was in its infancy. And now that television has matured, their wonderful example continues to provide inspiration. My congratulations to you all on this joyous occasion. You have every right to be proud of your accomplishments, and you have the gratitude of the nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Sawyer.
Television is not just picture and sound and motion. Good television is also substance, programs that inform and enlighten and hold a mirror to society. But as we all know, there is frequently sharp disagreement about what and how television reports. Some in the audience want only a rosy picture. Some in government feel that television oversteps the bounds. In the midst of these demanding and conflicting points of view, who in broadcasting speaks sensitively and forcefully for the public's right to know, to have the information it needs to make intelligent decisions? From the very beginning of television until he retired, our honoree this evening was the industry's spokesman. His name, Frank Stanton. Frank Stanton was born on the shores of Lake Michigan in 1908. He grew up in Dayton, Ohio, attended Ohio Wesleyan University, and did his graduate work in psychology at Ohio State. His doctoral thesis was a study of radio audience ratings. At Ohio State, he developed an automatic recorder for measuring radio listening. When this work came to the attention of CBS executives in 1935, they invited him to join the network. Hall of Fame honoree William S. Paley thought so highly of Stanton that he asked him to become president of CBS at the age of 37. As president, he was the chief operating officer of the company and, among other roles, took CBS into television. Perhaps his greatest contribution to broadcasting was as guide and defender of radio and television in its development as a major news and information service for America. Though his friends and acquaintances were some of the most powerful leaders in the country, he frequently found himself on the other side of the fence in dealing with the government. He championed the cause of radio and television to become fully recognized members of our free press under the First Amendment. During the post-World War II years, when Senator Joseph McCarthy was faced with censure by his peers, newspaper and magazine reporters and the general public were admitted to the hearing. Microphones and cameras were barred. Stanton, in an historic first, went on the CBS network coast to coast with an editorial urging live broadcast coverage of these proceedings.
We ask a committee itself to reconsider its ruling against radio and television so that you, sitting in your own homes, always may exercise one of your most precious rights, the right to be informed. Thank you and good evening.
Under the act, he would have
On the eve of the presidential election in 1960, Stanton was again in the halls of Congress fighting for television's freedom. He led the campaign to suspend the FCC's equal time requirement that prevented the major candidates for president from face-to-face debates.
The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion because
Largely through his efforts, the rule was suspended for 1960, and the Kennedy-Nixon debates went on the air and into the history books. 10 years later, Stanton risked jail for contempt of Congress. He refused to hand over outtakes or reveal sources of material used on the highly praised and highly charged CBS Reports documentary, The Selling of the Pentagon. Claiming protection under the First Amendment for broadcast journalists, the same rights accorded print journalists. In July of 1971, the House of Representatives voted not to cite Stanton, even though 2 committees of the House had recommended that he and CBS be held in contempt of Congress.
Too frequently, newsmen are being jailed because they carried out their responsibility to inform the public and met their moral and historic obligation not to disclose certain information or sources.
Working side by side with William Paley for over a quarter of a century, Stanton helped establish the trademark of excellence for CBS News. For years of dedicated service to the cause of responsible broadcasting, for speaking out with authority and passion on issues that affect the industry and humanity, for leading his network to a place of respect and esteem and bringing to the American public the highest standards of information and entertainment, the Television Academy and the broadcast industry at large take pleasure in seeing Dr. Frank Stanton inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Diane. Thank all of you, and thank all of my associates at CBS over the years, particularly Bill Paley, who on a rainy Saturday afternoon 40-odd years ago asked me to become president of CBS. What a wonderful opportunity, helping to build a company and then helping to develop a new medium of communication. The challenges of early television were exciting and sometimes staggering. So will it be for those in broadcasting today, for science and technology are driving the industry into new areas and new directions. But central to all of the efforts tomorrow, just as it was yesterday and is today, is the program. what's on the face of the television set in the homes of America. And fundamental to all of the programming is our freedom of speech, whether it be entertainment, religion, education, or the news. It is an honor to join my friends and former colleagues in television's Hall of Fame. So, too, it has been an honor to have worked in this great medium. I wish all of you the very best in taking television forward. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Letterman.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dave Letterman. And if you're anything like I am, and by the way, that seems pretty unlikely, when you hear the words Hall of Fame, you think of Cooperstown, New York, Canton, Ohio, and the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. What a shrine this vine-covered edifice really is when you start to think about it, you know? I'll keep my remarks brief because they have to load in the auto show when we're done here tonight. And my earliest memories of television, I was a small boy in a room in my home, and I would sit in front of an old black and white television. I think it was an RCA or GE. And the truth of the matter is I could sit there hour after hour after hour and just laugh and laugh and laugh. You ever laugh till your sides actually ache from laughing so much? Maybe it hasn't happened here tonight, but it could. And I remember this very clearly, as if it were yesterday. One evening, my mom came into the room where I was seated in front of the television set, and she said, "Dave, why don't you turn that thing on?" So I turned the television set on, and ladies and gentlemen, I began to laugh even harder because the face on the screen was the man who was one of the most creative, original, comedic minds of our time. It was also the face of a man who has meant a great deal to me personally and professionally, Steve Allen.
Steve Allen was born on December 16th, 1921 in New York City. His father and his mother were both vaudeville performers. Dad was a singer straight man known professionally as Billy Allen, and Mom was an excellent comedian called Belle Montrose. In the course of growing up, young Stephen was a student at 16 different schools, including 5 high schools and 2 colleges, which, by the way, is still a record. Mother and son eventually settled in Arizona, where Steve spent 2 years at Arizona State Teachers College, and in 1945, after a stint in the United States Army and time at radio station KOY in Phoenix, Steve traveled to Los Angeles to seek his fortune in big-time radio. It was at KNX that he created and starred in a half-hour music talk show. The show expanded to an hour and was the most popular, and some say, funniest nighttime show in Los Angeles radio history. But it was another show that really established Steve Allen as a true pioneer and a household name. The Tonight Show, which Steve created, began locally in New York in 1953 and went on the NBC network in 1954, opening up the late-night time period and changing the viewing habits of a nation. Thank goodness. Steve introduced many new faces on that show, including Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet.
Good, splendid.
Now and Andy Williams. In 1956, Steve added to his already ambitious schedule by taking on the Sunday night primetime Steve Allen Show. It went head-to-head against ratings giant The Ed Sullivan Show and ended up neck-to-neck with him for the next 3 years. On that show, Steve reached into his bottomless well of humor and came up with hundreds of wild and wonderful premises and characters.
Man, this answer reads, bats in the belfry. The question?
Question is all right, Tex. Where is Masterson hiding?
He also uncovered a remarkably diverse group of peculiar people who would become individually famous as a result of a segment of the show called Man on the Street.
Well, sir, we'll find out now as we meet our first man in the street. Here he is.
Load the banana boat all night long. Lift up the banana.
Gordon,
lift up the bananas. From daylight till I want to go.
Gordon, listen to me. What do you think of calypso music?
I hate it, Slim.
What do you like best about spring, sir?
Well, I just composed a little poem about it. Would you like to hear it?
Uh-huh, sure. Certainly.
Okay. Well, that's a general idea.
Do you have a telephone?
Yes.
Well, good. Are you listed in the phone book?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Fine. Now, if you wanted to call your number, how would you go about it?
Well, I wouldn't call my number.
Why not?
I know I'm not home.
Yes, that's a very big pearl. What kind of an oyster did that come out of?
A very unhappy one, Steve.
Do you have a retail outlet here in Hollywood?
No, I have an emotional outlet here in Hollywood.
How do you do, sir? And what is your name?
My name, Jose Jimenez.
Oh, yes. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you.
If you really want to know what's happening, if you want to know the score, never mind about the 6 o'clock news, just head right out the door. Conduct yourself a little personal poll with a who and a where and a why.
Do just like Steve Allen did. Interrogate the average guy.
On your feet, too sweet. Go and meet the man on the street. The man on the street, for major information, he's the man you should meet.
We all were as anonymous as anyone around us.
Until Steve Allen took his microphone outside and found us.
The man on the street, the man on the street. Just take your notes, we'll give you quotes that you can repeat. We're very grateful for that fateful day on his feet. When he stopped to chat with the man on the street.
And the question for the man on the street tonight is, how do you feel about Steve Allen being inducted into the Hall of Fame? And here's our first questionee, Gordon Hathaway, the original yuppie, also known as Mr. Louis Nye.
Hi-ho, Steve Areno. Oh, if it were up to me, I'd give you a Clio, a Tony, an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, a Pulitzer, a Christopher, a Peabody, and a Purple Heart. Because purple is my favorite color. You deserve them all, Mr. Everything.
Mr. Dayton Allen, why should Steve Allen be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, a friend of mine whispered into one of my ears, "Why Steve Allen?" I answered back by mouth, "Why not?" After 37 years, Steve knows everything about television. In just 4 days, he fixed my set.
Mr. Bill Dana, now, and the shy Latino. You remember him. What's his name?
My name, Jose Jimenez. I'm glad you like my name. I got to say, I don't think Steve Allen should be in the hall. I think he should be allowed in here like everybody else so we can tell him how much we love him.
Now, let's ask Pat Harrington's alter ego, Guido Panzini.
I was there in Italy when Steve Allen shot the hole-in-one on the 14th hole at the Verona Golf and Country Club. That is a very, very famous hole, and that is why Steve Allen should be in the Hall of Fame.
Now here's the one and only Mr. Gabe Dell.
Good evening, Steve. Hello, I've always had a warm heart for you, Steve. You see, he is no fly-by-night entertainer. No. Show business is in his blood, and it's the best.
Mr. Tom Poston, how do you feel about this honor?
I remember Steve Allen. He was always asking me my name, and I would say... Anyway, I'm happy to say this award is well-deserved, and this group should be proud to honor such a memorable guy as...
A final opinion now from the stout-hearted Mr. Don Knotts. Don, are you nervous?
No. Why should I be nervous to be here honoring Steve Allen tonight? Steve's the one who should be nervous. I'm driving him home after the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Nice job, gentlemen. And I think we could all watch Gene Rayburn dance all night. I just, the way that man moves, well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Steve Allen saga. Next, the man and the legend.
Human teabag time. Here we go.
In the period from 1959 through 1974, often called by media historians the brass age of TV comedy, Steve Allen's contribution stood out like an original in a sea of carbon copies. Under many different titles and auspices, the entertainer continued to present his own unique brand of wit, humor, and spontaneity.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, tea is served.
But how do you feel about sex on television?
Are you serious?
Never more serious.
Well, I would just say this. I think you'd have to be awfully careful of the antenna. That would be my... But mainly in the news tonight, another crash, a freeway mess, another coup in Bangladesh. Another reason, another season.
Steve has constantly pursued many avenues of expression, two of the most prominent being writing and composing. For 20 years, Steve had nurtured an idea for a series featuring various characters from history, conversing in their own words on a variety of subjects. And in 1977, the program finally reached the public on the PBS network. It was called Meeting of Minds. Steve is the first one to admit the series, which won both the Peabody and Emmy Award, would not have been possible without the outstanding conceptualizing, writing, and acting abilities of his wife of long standing, Jane Meadows. Recent years have found Steve active as ever, hosting numerous specials and syndicated series devoted to comedy and music, and bringing his on-camera skills to the production of a new series based on one of his most famous songs, The Start of Something Big.
As with any performer in the public eye for such a long time, there are moments that we remember, images that we recall with affection that kind of sum up the person in the spotlight. And my most vivid impression of Steve Allen is one of grace, dignity, complete control, and dazzling mastery of a situation that I would like to share with you folks now.
Good evening, this is your old Indian sportscaster. Your old stupid jerk Bill Allen bringing you, how are you, the complete sports roundup in the world of sports for all you jerky sports out there in Sportsland. Well, what's new in sports? I'll tell you what's new. The 1958 ouch baseball season is getting underway with the annual... Good night, folks. Serious. That's it. The annual spring... All right, here we go. Now. Oh, if only the script were this good. All right, here we go. The annual spring training warm-up. The big league teams are all at the spring training headquarters around the country. Let's see what's happening.
So for his remarkably facile mind and quick wit, for his outstanding contributions towards the creation and development of new forms of TV programming, for the legacy of laughter and nurturing of new talent, and for the deep-seated and active interest in matters of social, political, and intellectual consequence, the Television Academy is proud to induct into its Hall of Fame Mr. Steve Allen.
Thank you very much, and David, I'll get you for this. Oh, I appreciate it very much. It's taken about 40 years to live through the professional experiences which my friend David Letterman has been kind enough to refer to tonight, and now I am allotted a minute and a half to say thank you. It would take at least an hour and a half to properly express gratitude to all of those who have made such important contributions to the body of my work, or the work of my body, or whatever it is I'm talking about. But I must thank, first, those wonderfully funny guys that you've just seen. Louis Nye, Tom Poston, Gabe Dell, Don Knotts, Dayton Allen, Pat Harrington, Bill Dana, and our friend Gene Rayburn. They were just terrific. One of the reasons the shows we worked on were so funny is that each of us was genuinely amused by all the others. And we loved each other. We had fun together, on or off stage, and we still do. They, and our writers, of whom there were dozens over the years, were all major league practitioners of the art of comedy. And the shows we did, like those of Milton Berle, Jackie Gleason, Sid Caesar, and others, were programs you could watch with your children. A certain French cardinal of the 18th century rather, when asked what he had done during the Revolution, said, "I survived." Survivors in any field eventually come to seem part of the national family, I suppose. But one survives because one has been permitted to do so. So we survivors are grateful for the welcome that you all have for so long a time extended. I wish there were time to thank all of the production people who have made such significant contributions to the early show, the early gang, Bill Harback, Dwight Hemian, Nick Vanoff, and the dozens of others. And I thank Jane, of course, not just because I married her, although that's not a bad idea either, but because her support, her sound editorial judgment, and her talent have so often made a crucial difference. There are so many more important components to the drama of modern life that it would be perfectly understandable if, a week or so from now, those of you watching around the country were not able to recall the names of all 7 recipients of the Television Academy Special Citation. But whether you remember this or not, I will not forget it. And for that, I thank all of you, as I thank our dear friends, Steve and Edie, for wanting